what happened over 12 weeks when we had this group of 40 men and women. So we took a group of middle-aged, 40 men and women that were in this anabolic resistant state, as most people are. It's really hard not to be in anabolic resistance once you get to age 35. So, anyone who's listening to this right now, if you're over the age of 35, you have some degree of anabolic resistance. And if you're not following protein pacing and nutritional fasting, well, then I guess I'm sorry to tell you that you're not going to be able to optimize your body. There's just simply no way around that. You've got to perform these things in order to achieve body optimization of that lean body mass. So look at these results. We had massive weight loss in that 12-week time period, 25 pounds, of which obviously nearly all of it was fat mass, and their proportion of their lean body mass, which is determining their metabolism and their risk for aging diseases, went up 9%. 9%. That's just incredible. When we did it with the 8-week study, so we did 2 different studies here. I'm presenting to you 2 different studies. The 12-week study I conducted back in 2016 and 17. The 8-week study I did right at about when COVID hit. So it was about 2020, 2021. It was an 8-week study, and I directly compared it to the Heart Healthy Mediterranean diet. This 12-week study that I did back in 2016-17 was just looking at the comparison between men and women who were following the protein pacing and the nutritional fasting. So this one is the comparison to the Heart Healthy Mediterranean. You see that right here. HHMED is Heart Healthy Mediterranean. And look at this. The group that was following the protein pacing nutritional fasting in 8 weeks had a 6% increase in their lean body mass. Now look at the Heart Healthy Mediterranean also improved by 3%, but the protein pacing nutritional fasting doubled their increase in their proportion of lean body mass. That was a phenomenal finding. What we then did in the 12-week study, so I'm presenting you both studies, but I'm kind of jumping to each one. So this is, in this particular slide, what you're seeing is the 1-year follow-up to the 12-week study, because at the end of the 12 weeks, when the men and women lost all that weight, 25 pounds and 21 pounds of fat mass, we divided them in half. We had half follow the Heart Healthy Mediterranean, and the other half continue to follow the protein pacing nutritional fasting. And in each one of these figures, you can see this one is body weight right here in the left. Abdominal fat is on the right. Just below that is the lean body, fat mass. And then over here is the lean body mass. The solid line is the Heart Healthy Mediterranean, whereas the dotted line is the protein pacing nutritional fasting group. And as you can see, the protein pacing nutritional fasting group responded significantly better on all of these body optimization components. They maintained the weight over a year, so that 25 pounds that they lost, they maintained it, whereas the Heart Healthy group began to gain it back. Abdominal fat continued to decrease in the protein pacing nutritional fasting, and in the Heart Healthy group, it began to go up. Same thing happened with overall fat mass. So not only did abdominal fat mass go up, but total body fat went up as well. But here's the really exciting one. If you look in this lower left quadrant, at the end of a year, the proportion of lean body mass continued to increase in the protein pacing nutritional fasting group, whereas it started to decrease significantly in the Heart Healthy group. I mean, these findings, speak for themselves, again, published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. So let's just switch our attention right now to longevity and health span, because that's another topic that's on everybody's mind. And when I talk about longevity, I'm really talking about the antithesis of aging. It's the opposite of aging, because it's your health span. Aging is your lifespan that you confront with disease. And here are the big 5 diseases, diseases of aging, we call them. Diabetes, heart disease, cognitive decline, that would be things like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and related dementias. Inflammation and toxin exposure, that would be things like cancer and autoimmune diseases. And then musculoskeletal conditions, things like loss of muscle mass, sarcopenia, loss of bone mineral density, osteoporosis, increased abdominal obesity, arthritis. So as you can see, all of these health conditions are increasing exponentially right now in the human population, and particularly in North America. So here's what happened with diabetes risk in the 12-week study. We measured markers of diabetes, and that's characterized by an increase in our abdominal obese level. We call it visceral fat, the fat that's around our vital organs that we don't want there. Look at this. These individuals, these 40 women and men, lost 33% of their visceral fat in 12 weeks. It was the size of a basketball. Not only that, but their blood sugar dropped by 9%, and their insulin, which is the chaperone for blood sugar. So insulin is the hormone that's responsible for taking glucose out of the blood, which is a good thing, that dropped by 41%. And what's interesting about these all three of these actually, visceral fat, blood sugar, and insulin are all now related to cognitive decline. So not only is it a risk for diabetes, but it's also, these three factors are a risk for cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson. And look at this, these things all plummeted. This is the visceral fat in the 8-week study. So where this was the 12-week study, we also measured visceral fat in the 8-week study. And what do you notice here? Look at this. The same degree of decrease in their visceral fat in the 8-week study, 33%. In the Heart Healthy Mediterranean, they decreased by 16%. So again, a very favorable finding, but it was twice as much loss of visceral fat in the protein pacing nutritional fasting group than it was in the Heart Healthy Mediterranean. One of the other striking features of the protein pacing nutritional fasting nutrition regimen is a massive decrease in your sugar and carbohydrate intake, 50% actually. So we also measured heart health, and heart health is characterized by an improvement in how well our blood vessels react to blood flow. So when our heart pumps, we want our blood vessels to expand. We want them to dilate. When our heart is resting in between our beats, we want our blood vessels to constrict a little bit, come back. It's called compliance, elasticity. So we measure that. We have very sophisticated laboratory techniques, and these are things that are invasive, meaning inside the body. You can't really measure these outwardly too well, or recognize them is what I'm really saying. You can't really feel these things. I mean, some people feel blood pressure, they get a headache, they get other symptoms, but these measures that are actually a component of our blood vessels, our major arteries, so our aortic artery, our carotid in our neck, our brachial artery that's coming down our inside of our arm, those are the main arteries inside of our body. That's where we measure these biometric measures from, for lack of a better word. And so what we found was that not only did blood pressure decrease, but the stiffness of the arteries decreased by 12%, and the elasticity increased by 14%. So a phenomenal improvement. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but this was the toxin measures. So one of the things that we were interested in doing in the 12-week study was to determine what was happening when people were losing this much visceral fat, and why that was of interest to us, because there's some research to show that when people lose an excessive amount of body weight, particularly fat, because toxins are stored in our fat, people want to know what downstream effect does that have on our body. And that's a very good question, because sometimes people, when they lose a lot of weight, they actually experience some significant disease. In some cases, it can be fatal when you lose a lot of weight that significantly in that short amount of time. So we wanted to quantify this. We wanted to actually measure the effect of this loss of the visceral fat that was storing all of these toxins. And what we found was the first step of removing toxins from the body is releasing them from the storage area where they are, and that's the visceral fat. And we were able to measure a 33% increase in the mobilization, which made perfect sense because you've seen that 33% somewhere else. Exactly, visceral fat. Visceral fat reduced by 33%, toxins were increased into the blood by 33%. So they were being released. Now, ordinarily, you would see a downstream negative consequence to that. You would see that the cells of the body would be damaged, because when you experience toxins in the blood, it could potentially damage the cells of the body. So we also measured what's something called cellular oxidative stress. And normally when your body experiences exposure to a toxin, oxidative cellular stress skyrockets. We found the opposite. We found a 25% reduction in the cellular oxidative stress in the body. At the same time, there was a 5% increase in what's called our antioxidant defense system. That's our army that comes to our rescue when a toxin or a pathogen has entered into the body. That's incredible that at the same time these toxins were being released, the defense system in the body went up and the cellular oxidative damage went down significantly. It's just awesome stuff. So some of the latest data that I've been working on right now that many of you will, I think, find some real excitement around is our gut microbiome. And it's being talked about a lot right now because we know that our gut interacts and controls so many other health markers inside of our body. There's not many people that don't make an association between the health of our gut and the health of our body overall, our immune system, our nervous system, our metabolic system. So there's a direct correlation between the health of your gut and the rest of your body. And what we were able to find in this 8-week study was that stomach complaints decreased in both groups. So the Heart Healthy Mediterranean decreased by 4%. Their complaints of gut health, GI, we call it gastrointestinal stress and symptoms. But look at this, the protein pacing nutritional fasting group had three times the decrease in stomach complaints in the study participants. Now, we also measured the gut microbiome with stool samples. So in all of the 40 study participants, we collected stool samples over the course of the 8 weeks, and we've analyzed them, and we have submitted it to one of the top medical journals in the world. And so right now it's currently in review, so I'm not able to share the results from that, but I can just say this. Of everything that I presented to you tonight, which is, I think, groundbreaking and incredibly monumental. And by the way, the Heart Healthy Mediterranean diet was again voted the top ranked nutrition regimen or way of eating for the 7th year in a row. 7th year in a row. It's the one, nutrition eating plan that has held the ranking for that long. And look at the comparison and the results that I'm presenting you tonight with a direct comparison with the protein pacing and the nutritional fasting to the #1 rated nutrition plan we currently have in the world over the last 7 years. Guess what? The gut microbiome data that's in review right now blows all of these things away. So I'm super excited when this eventually comes out. And we're hoping that we hear within the next couple of weeks to a month. So really super exciting information I can share with you. And then finally, to finish up, the other thing that I've spent time on is this fitness performance component, because as I said before, I want everyone, regardless of age, to be able to be an active participant in life. And so I've also conducted research using the Isagenix system on performance outcomes. And I know a lot of you have seen these results as well too before, but gosh, every time I read these off and I look at them myself, it's incredible how impressive they are. So we took a group of women, 30 women, we had 30 women, and we had them perform the same exercise routine. So there was no difference. We split them in half. We had 15 follow protein pacing and 15 follow the current commercially available sports nutrition recommendations. So we had Isagenix, protein pacing, performance nutritionals, and commercially available. Both groups of the 15 women, so 30 total, 15 in each group, followed the exact same exercise program. Now think about that. There was no difference. There was nothing different what they did over the course of the 12 weeks other than how they nourished their body. They performed the same amount of exercise. We recorded their sleep. There was no difference in that. Everything else was nearly identical other than the quality of what they were consuming. This undenatured, grass-fed whey protein that is found in the Isagenix shakes, along with Ionix and some of the other Hydrate, for example, other nutritional products that Isagenix provides, compared to things like Gatorade and certain energy bars that you can buy off the shelf at a grocery store. So that was the comparison. And look at these results. The group that was consuming the Isagenix nutritionals, performing the exact same exercise, had 5 times more upper body strength and power, 2 times more upper body muscular endurance, They had 2 times more increase in their muscular endurance of their core, and they had 5 times less arterial stiffness. Incredible, over a 12-week time period. And by the way, both groups had significant improvement in all of these measures. The magnitude of improvement was this much better in the Isagenix group, simply from nourishing their body with high quality nourishment. So it comes down to, once again, our level of health and performance is 90% what we eat and 10% how we exercise. And in this case, this is clear evidence again that it's what you fuel your body with that's going to determine your optimal health and performance. The men was no different. Men, same thing. We had an equal group of 24 men, 12 in each group. And once again, the men that were following the Isagenix performance, the nutritional system, had 14 times more lower body explosive power, 2 times more upper body strength, 4 times more aerobic. I mean, think about, cardiovascular diseases being the #1 killer still in men and women. And look at this, and these men, their cardiovascular system improved 4 times more simply by eating a higher quality diet, higher quality nutrition. And then they had 3 times more lower back hamstring flexibility. So I know I threw a lot at you, and that's okay. It's worth repeating these things. I know that this star-studded group that I have in front of me has heard a lot of this before, but if you're anything like me, it's always fun to hear these results again because they're so incredibly phenomenal. But they truly are. They're incredible results. It speaks to the quality of the nutrition, and I'm really excited about opening this up for any questions that y'all might have.